Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What's the most screwed you've seen someone? My favorite divorce story of all time. My buddy meets girl, gets married, la-dee-da 6 months later, she runs off with another dude. After a couple months my buddy filed for divorce. He told her, listen, we've been married 6 months, let's do an uncontested divorce, since you haven't worked or anything, and I own everything, and did before I met you. She puts up a fight, and eventually comes to I had a car coming into this marriage, and I'm leaving with one. She sold her car for some dumb shit. He offers her the truck, 10 years old with 150k miles, but meticulously maintained. She said nope, so off to court they go. She got zip, nada, empty-handed. My favorite justice boner of all time. I offered my ex 6 figures in stock, literally more than half of what I had aside from my house, which I bought before marriage. He thought he deserved twice that, and dragged the divorce out for a year. Our marriage was only 2.5 years, so the nonsensical divorce lasted basically half, as long as the marriage. The judge awarded him half of what I offered him, but in cash. We made it all the way to trial with no kids, and not really any assets to divide, so the judge could not understand why we were there. We were only there because my ex wanted me to pay him an amount of money I literally didn't have, and he had the most incompetent attorney who harassed both myself and my parents throughout the process. If he had taken my original offer and not been a complete narcissistic prick, he would have basically had what he demanded originally, because the stock accrued value. I warned him that he wasn't entitled to as much when I begged him to take the offer and not put us through hell. It was pretty crazy. What ruined my justice boner is that my lawyer got the other half and then some. I also told my ex I would have rather have paid him over attorneys, but he's a dummy and always made terrible decisions. He consistently proved why I was divorcing him throughout the divorce. I had 2 couples come to me. They had been friends for nigh on 15 years. Husband A decided he liked wife B more than wife A. Wife A decided she likes husband B more than husband A. The reverse was also true, and husband B preferred wife A. Wife B preferred husband A. The couples had near identical assets in terms of value. They came to me all together, and I drafted 2 sets of paperwork. 2 default judgment hearings were set on the same day. The judge signed all the papers the same day. A week after that, they all went to a JP and remarried. The husbands swapped houses and they all went about their lives exactly as they had the week before, but each slightly happier. This is the most wholesome divorce story I've ever heard. Reminds me of the stable marriage problem. It's like these people live inside an algorithm's textbook. What's the stable marriage problem? It's a thing in computer science, where the problem is pair people up into marriages, such that no 2 people would want to swap partners. When you've paired everyone up like this, it's called a stable matching. So the story above was a good example of an unstable matching. There's an algorithm that solves the problem quite fast, which is sometimes used to solve problems like pairing up med students and hospitals. One of my father's friends tried to solve the earth before getting divorced. A rental house and a cabin were deeded to relatives. The cars they drove every day were sold to other relatives for tiny sums. Stocks handed over to a trust for the children, etc. He even vanished a chunk of cash from the company he co-owned with his wife using funny invoices, and stopped paying himself a salary, electing to burn through their personal savings for over a year instead. He learned that judges really hate when you try to hide or intentionally diminish assets, and they will absolutely refer you to prosecutors for fraud. I don't think he did any jail time in the end, but his ex-wife got everything, plus the satisfaction of firing him from his own company. He must be an idiot. Everyone who watches ID, Snapped, or Lifetime knows this. Everybody always thinks they're the smartest. I'm not giving them away, I'm selling them for $1. Take that, smart pants judge. I didn't give it away, now did I? That's like people on game forums who think they can get around censorship rules by being clever, entirely ignoring the part of the 2S that goes, we can ban you for any reason, and no reason at all. I've worked as a legal assistant for 2 family law attorneys for the last 8 years. One of the cases that made me the angriest was a man who cheated on his wife when she had cancer. He then leaves his wife and attempts to hide all his assets while she's undergoing chemotherapy. Fortunately, my boss is a badass. She teamed up with a forensic accountant and they took him to the cleaners. He even had to pay the forensic accountant's bill and attorney's fees. I met a girl in college who was not incredibly bright and was suddenly in a blind panic to make money. The reason was she had been kicked out of the place she was staying and needed emergency money. She had been kicked out because she was living with her boyfriend in his house while his wife was in the hospital due to brain cancer. So when she came home, still very much not likely to live long, he booted this 19-year-old out of his house with a "you can move back in when she dies." His wife beat cancer, came home, was receiving mail for a strange name and eventually tracked her down on Facebook. From there she found out that her 47-year-old husband had been dating a 19-year-old for just over a year, officially likely actually longer, and put him through the ringer. That's fucked up. I can answer for a friend. His wife was divorcing him because he's an unreliable idiot. He figured that he was smarter than everyone, so he dragged out the process as long as he possibly could, making it as difficult as possible on her. Scheduling and rescheduling meetings, not showing up, promising to do a thing, and then backtracking later, refusing to negotiate at all. I think his plan was to make the divorce so difficult on her that she would just stay married. He was also doing all this pro se, so her lawyer had to deal directly with him. After a year of this, his wife had had enough. She told her lawyer to make it happen. So the lawyer set a date and the court served him notice of the divorce proceeding. She showed up to court and he wasn't there. So as the only party there, she got a very one-sided deal. She got their business, custody of the kids, the house and all contents, her car, and the bank account. He got his car, his clothes, and half the proceeds of the sale of the house when she decides to sell it. That's it. He found out about this when he called the court a week after it happened. What had happened is her lawyer served the divorce notice to an address in a different town with a similar name. Normally this would have been caught by his attorney, who would have received notice directly from the court, but since he had no attorney, there was no one other than him that the court could send it to. He finally hired a lawyer and tried to get the settlement tossed as he claimed he was never served, but the judge said there was nothing he could do. Her lawyer served the divorce notice to an address in a different town. I sure hope her lawyer isn't lawyering anymore, considering this sounds intentionally spiteful and possibly an ethical violation. That's what I thought, but nothing happened to the lawyer. To be fair, he was pretty transient at the time and had no permanent address. The address was his girlfriend's, where he occasionally stayed. They placed a notice in the newspaper of record at the same time, which is also valid legal service. Attorneys pay a service to watch for legal notices affecting their clients and to alert them. But since he had no attorney and wasn't even in the same town where the newspaper is located, he didn't see it. The lesson here, kids, is if someone is divorcing you, get a lawyer. Divorce lawyer and mediator here. I once mediated the case of Nekbud v Tiger Mom. It must have started out as the perfect dream for Nekbud. He landed a hot Asian wife, brought her to this country, but once that green card came through, things changed. They had a daughter together, and the case was mostly about her. Tiger Mom had zero respect for this guy, and try as I might to maintain my empathy, I've never felt a greater urge to stuff another human into a locker. Two of his demands really stand out. He asked for the following injunction: Tiger Mom shall be enjoined from discussing Nekbud's weight in a derogatory manner. Specifically, Tiger Mom may not refer to Nekbud as fatty, tubby, pudgy, or Baymax. Normally I wouldn't take an offer like that to the other side. I'd normally help a guy come up with something more sensible, but everyone, including his lawyer, just could not take this guy seriously. So I wrote that out verbatim and trotted over to Tiger Mom's room. Of course she thought it was hilarious. She had a super thick accent and said, "My daughter call him Baymax cause he looked like Baymax. I can't fix that, he have to fix that." There comes a point at the end of the day when everything is pretty much settled and people are dividing up the shit in the house. Of course Nekbud has a meltdown at this point and it's over a damn Nintendo Switch for the daughter. Tiger Mom made the very sensible proposal that the daughter take the Switch with her to each parent's house as she goes back and forth. Nekbud freaks out and demands the Switch stay with him at all times because there's no way Tiger Mom can take proper care of it. Mind you, the attorneys are billing enough to pay for 3 Switches an hour at this point. I don't know what happened to the guy, but I do know calling him Baymax could land one lady in contempt of court after the most hilarious enforcement trial of all time, and he owns what's probably the most expensive Nintendo Switch in the world. Neckbird freaks out and demands the Switch stay with him at all times, because there's no way Tiger Mom can take proper care of it. Man, I would've made that case for keeping the kid, but Jesus, no wonder Tiger Mom is divorcing this guy, has his priorities screwed up.